I'm going to give the talk in English, aunque hablo un poco de español, but we'll stick with English for today. So, like Ms. Ismail said, these are joint work with two very great co-authors from Harvard who I've known for a long time. And let me just start off by saying that this will be a somewhat technical academic paper that I'm going to present, but it has implications for the real practical world of doing teacher evaluation. And I think teacher evaluation is a very complicated policy issue. It doesn't have any simple answers, and a lot of the devil is in the details, as we say, that taking an idea and putting it into practice involves a lot of thoughtful work about exactly how to structure any kind of system that's going to fairly evaluate teacher performance, and I'd love to get into those kinds of issues. I also want to say you should feel free to stop me, raising your hand, asking questions during the talk. I don't want to just talk myself for an hour and then leave questions for the end. I'd like it to be more of a conversation, particularly if there's anything technical about the paper or about the analysis that I haven't explained well. Just stop me, okay? If you don't stop me at least once in the next 15 minutes, something's wrong. Okay. Let me just say the origins of this paper are sort of have been a long time in coming. There's been a lot of work showing in the U.S. but also in other contexts how there seems to be a persistent relationship between the teacher to whom a student is assigned and growth on standardized measures of achievement, particularly math and English or language arts achievement. That is, some teachers seem to be better at raising test scores than other teachers, which is important and signals that teachers, as you might not be surprised to know, are kind of the best or the most integral piece of the educational production process. But we don't care about test scores in and of themselves, right? We don't really just care about a test score. We care about what a test score might represent, which is real learning, real knowledge, real human capital that a student possesses that will be valuable to that student when they go out into the labor market, into the world, and try to apply that knowledge and those skills somewhere. And so what was the basic motivation behind this paper, besides some of the technical points that I'll get into, but the big motivation behind the paper was trying to link the impacts of a teacher at young ages. We'll be looking at 4th grade, 5th grade, through 8th grade. Teachers you have in elementary and middle school directly with long-term outcomes that we care about, like earnings in the labor market, as opposed to just looking at test scores and then saying, well, I assume that test scores are a good thing. I assume that if you do better on a test when you're 12 years old, you'll do better in the labor market. Because that's actually not 100% clear. Even though kids that score higher on tests when they're 12 years old do better, it may not be the teacher they got. It may be that they score high on tests because their parents are more educated, and they do well in the labor market because their parents are more educated. And it's not the school and the teacher itself that made that happen. So we wanted to identify that link in a more rigorous way. Okay. And what we're focusing on particularly are what's called value-added measures of teacher quality. That is, these measures that are based on student test scores, looking at growth over time and how a student does on math and English exams, measuring at the teacher level, giving them a number, a metric for performance based on these test scores, and asking, are these good measures of teacher performance or teacher quality, if you will? And the debate about these measures stems from two basic issues. One I've kind of already talked about, but the first one is, are these measures biased? And what I mean by biased is, are they driven by real differences in how teachers teach, real differences in what's going on in the classroom, or are they driven by which students a particular teacher is assigned? That is, You might be assigned a classroom full of students who are low achieving, badly behaved, difficult to reach, and I might be assigned a classroom full of kids who are well behaved and love to learn and have lots of support in the home, and my students will do better on the test than yours, but it's not because I'm a better teacher. It's because I got better students. And that's the key problem in doing teacher evaluation, is that students are different. And it's very difficult to say whether one teacher is better than another if their students are not identical. And students are never fully identical. So what value-added methods try to do is try to use statistical analysis to level the playing field, right? To make it equally possible that no matter which kind of students you're assigned, you have an equal chance of performing well or performing poorly on this measure of performance. Okay? It's almost like if anyone plays golf, it's like a handicap in golf, where I might be playing against you, you're much better than me, and we sort of make the game more fair by handicapping the better player. Okay? The same idea. So do teachers, test score gains across teachers capture the causal impacts of teachers, or are they driven by student sorting? And there's conflicting evidence on this point. So Tom Kane and Doug Steger, who I've written with before, have a very interesting paper in 2008 that uses an experiment to try to understand whether there's bias in value-added measures. They measure value-added of teachers, and then in the following year, they pair up teachers, and they randomly assign those teachers to one of two classrooms. There's two teachers, there's two classrooms within the same school, and they flip a coin to see which teacher gets which classroom. And then they ask whether the value-added measures they calculated ex ante in the year before predict well differences in student performance in the following year when the classrooms were randomly assigned. And the answer they get is yes, the value-added measures worked. But there's some work by Jesse Rothstein that's got a lot of attention that points out that there may be bias in these measures in a larger data set that he was looking at, where he finds this interesting relationship which is hard to reconcile with a causal story, which is your future teacher seems to be related to your current test score growth. And that, of course, is impossible to be true causally, right? I shouldn't do better on the test this year just because I'm going to get a different teacher in the future. It must be that there's some way in which students are being sorted to classrooms dynamically over time that cause that relationship to be there. And that's kind of a red flag saying, hold on, these measures might be biased. Okay? And then the second question, which I've already touched on, is do teachers who raise test scores improve students' long-term outcomes? Because we care about the long-term effects, not just the short-term stuff on test scores.